Well, we're live. Not quite our program yet, but for those of you who are signing in early, you understand we do some background chatter before we go into the official version of our program. And Tommy just confided in me. He gets on, I get on. How are you doing? How was your weekend? And he says, hey, Joe, I was watching a lot of fights this weekend, and classical fights, boxing matches when I say fights. And he was expressing this enjoyment and pleasure. I know he's really trying to psych himself up for this. The guy's getting ring nerve concerns, and he wants to see fighters that can maybe motivate him. So, Tommy, I get you completely in what you're talking about there.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, as a younger man, I loved boxing back in the day.
Okay.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, back in those days, Marvin Hagler. Man, oh man, that was some good stuff back in those days.
I hear you. When the fights were still, they were available, and you could appreciate and enjoy them. For those who like that style, which I certainly do also, which is kind of what we're doing here. We're fighting each other over the premise of confidence in public speaking. Tommy seems to feel you can develop it, you can earn it, you can make it happen. Me, being the shy introvert that I am, God bless people who are in that package. I just don't see how it works for me. I mean, I got to be confident before I talk, or got to be talking before I become confident. I'm confused. So what we're sparring about here is that very premise, and somehow he thinks he can convince me that it can happen. Now, in all fairness, people who I know who talk about him says he's good at what he does. So he's got some stuff behind him that moves him well, but I'm still not buying it. And one of the things we talked, and some house chores for those who get on. Please remember you can comment through YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. For those that do it for YouTube, I forgot to mention you have to be signed in through your Google account to leave comments. So you can even do it tongue-tied already. You can do it during the live session or the replay session. And that brings us to our topic for today, public speaking. As we all know, that social media has become the norm. And how many people in business have not yet? I went to a family member got married. A friend of the family got married yesterday, and we did a virtual attending to the wedding and to the reception. So wow. Everything is moving in this direction. So a thought occurred to me that public speaking in a classical sense, you get up in front of the stage or whatever it may be, or in a small room, and you start talking. However, now a lot of things are by social media, and that's your Zooms, your YouTubes, your Instagrams, your TikToks. I'm sure I'm leaving stuff out. So I really have two questions now for Tommy. That I'm going to assume that these people who get in front of the camera by whatever vehicle they use and they do the presentation, that for me is a form of public speaking. I think that's true, and Tommy will make his point on that. But what I'm not so sure about, and what we encourage you in this program, is when you make a comment, real time or after the fact, is that a form of public speaking, even though it's a written word? So it's new technology, new concepts, and Tommy, I'm hitting you with it. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a great question, but I do know this guy. I've gotten to know him over the last 13 weeks, who's I'm going to give him a little jab. He's actually become quite the public speaker without even knowing it.
No, sucking up to me is not going to work, and there's no shortcut. So give it thank you, but no thank you. Let's move on.
No. Responding on a Facebook or an Instagram chat, putting in a chat box is not public speaking. That's just no. You need to lean this. You need to, first of all, you must be using your verbal skills. You must acquire verbal skills. We communicate with each other through the spoken word, not the written word, especially if it's just somebody putting in. So if can you communicate with someone through the written word? Yes. If you're going to write a book, you're going to write a blog, yes, it works. But when you're talking public speaking, responding on someone typing in it is not. So I would go, we could end that right there if you want.
Well, no, I don't want. I'm going to come back on that, because the last session we had two people, Linda and Cameron, who interacted with us.
Right.
And we threw the comments up on the screen. And now, no, we're not seeing facial expression. We're not seeing body posture. But certainly they're expressing their thoughts in a public manner. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying it has to be a verbal commentary rather than a written commentary, because certainly there was strong engagement, and we could have gone
Yep.
another 20 minutes easily on that. So what are your
Yep.
thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's certainly a strong engagement. Would I consider it? I'm just going to take it back full circle. That it's not public speaking; it's communication.
Right.
You're communicating with someone. We can say all we want. I've watched concerts virtually on my television live, and it's not the same as sitting in the audience. It's just not. So yes, we're doing this all virtually, but let's not think that this is the human to human contact. No matter what you look at this, public speaking, communications, it is at most second best. Being with a human being on a human being level is first and foremost in my world. Yes, I think we're losing a lot in communication by being virtual. I really think being live is the way. Talking to people, that's my way of thinking. Somebody has a different approach, a different opinion. I'd love to hear it. I'd like to open and expand my thinking on it. But when it comes to public speaking, speaking in public, so is this the new public? Is that what we're trying to say?
Well,
That
that's what we're talking about here,
yeah,
and I understand. I'm going to come back on a different angle. I understand the issue of body language and posture, but let's say hypothetically, I'm on the stage, cameras rolling. Well, cameras you say may not count, but people in the audience, they're watching my gestures. Now let's say, for example, the lights go out on stage.
right.
Now I know you're a guy that about showmanship and the show must go on, and I say that in a professional manner.
Right.
So if that guy or lady is talking with the camera lights off and they can't see body language, does that mean the person is no longer publicly speaking based on your definition?
Well, in that case, it would be the tone of your voice, your voice inflection, your volume, everything that would come out. You'd have to talk about the elephant in the room, ladies and gentlemen. I understand you can't see me right now. For most of you, you're happy about that, right? So you address what's going on, the elephant in the room, and you move on. I've
Okay,
never.
but
Go
see,
ahead.
but see, it comes back to my point. Then I hear you. So, but here we are with the lights on, and the fact that I'm physically in the same room or not in the dark light scenario, they can't see body language. But here you and I are gesturing. The lights are on. The audience is happening, and kind of what I'm saying. I understand the classical mode, but things. Every new stage in life, the sun comes up to a different world every day. And so what I'm asking or questioning is, as we go more social media, more indirect, Tony Robbins, he gives presentations, as I understand, on video.
Yep.
Is that not public speaking with his 10 million audience out there that are paying money to be a part of his program?
Yeah, that's a great question. Is it public speaking? I'm going with my paradigms, what I believe, what I was taught. So
All right.
maybe I need a shift, but I will say this: I don't know if you can truly connect with someone on an emotional level virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when you're pulling on someone's heartstrings and you're playing them along, can it be done? Probably. Um, Believe me, if you were to speak with Tony Robbins, and I'm just saying this out of school, he knows the energy when you have 5,000 people in one room. See, here's the difference.
Okay.
Every one of those persons watching Tony Robbins that day is watching solo,
Mm-hmm.
not as a group. The energy comes from the group. He knows it. If he's going to inspire people, it's going to be live. And he knows, and I guarantee you this because I'm struggling with it. I work 10 to 100 times harder on Zoom to inspire, to engage than I do live.
Okay.
I can grab an audience live within 10 seconds. On a Zoom call, it takes a little bit more work to be engaging, to keep people engaged, to keep them not from being distracted by everything that's going on in the world. Live, I have a much better chance, much better.
I hear that. Now,
Mhm.
and Judy, again, thank you for your comment. In fact, I met Judy several days ago, an amazing human being. That being said, she says, I see it as the difference between impromptu versus planned speaking.
Mm.
Now, I'm even confused by that because I can get in front of a stage and somebody might ask, rephrase that. You go to an audience, you go to a room, and
Right.
you're noted for being in that presence. And you might say, hey, Tommy, could you come up and share a few words with us?
Sure.
Well, that's kind of impromptu,
Yep.
and you would publicly speak. So maybe, Judy, if you, Ah, okay. She gives another comment, so let me give
Hmm.
that on that one. And by the way, I should say this: Judy, besides being an educator, is also has a emphasis in public speaking. So I take her words in very good style. So I'm in teaching. I am teaching online, and believe me, I inspire them, entertain them, and educate them. And
Well, let me ask Judith the question back. We can go a little bit back and forth.
sure.
Do you find that the same impact as it would live? If you had a classroom full of 30 people, would you be connecting with them in the same way emotionally as you would virtually? I understand. I've learned how to engage audiences on Zoom, but for me, it's a world apart from engaging on an emotional level with people. So I'd love to hear our feedback on that.
Well, I think certainly feedback is a challenge when you don't have, you can't watch the whole room. Well, that's not true. Let me think about that. Now, Zoom screens, you can have 10,000 people in one screen. I guess if the screen is big enough. So I guess you can watch the audience. And I do get the sense, classical sense, that if you're not in the same room bumping shoulders and doing high fives in a physical, touchy-feely manner, shaking hands, you do lose something. I get that. On the other hand, I heard what you say was you're working a lot harder. They say when you do a virtual presentation, you have to overemphasize what you're talking about. You have to throw the hands in there and extra body language because otherwise the inherent connectivity doesn't exist. And I get that also. So
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm not sure if you're saying because it's different, it's not public speaking. And back to that, we're now having a conversation with Judy. She's speaking up. She has a history in the industry and expertise in the industry, and seems to feel that it takes hard work. I'm going to stop at this point. I'm going to go back and look up the definition of public speaking. I heard your version of it, and maybe
Yeah.
Webster's Dictionary hasn't caught up to it yet. But I think as the technology moves forward,
It's a great point.
yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have it the old way? But do we give up something? But maybe we also gain something too, because we put more work into our dialogue. We put more work into our effort. And I'm going to show the next Judy comment. It would not be the same. We have need to find new ways to reach them. Conversation before and after class, etc.
Yeah.
And so, do you define? And if I'm hearing you correctly, Tommy, you're saying public speaking is reaching out to people to get a response, to educate, to inform, to entertain. But you're saying you can't do it because it's virtual, perhaps? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, Judith, thank you for your feedback. It really makes for the show so much better. Thank you, because now I don't have to talk to Joe as much. Great.
Thank you, Judy, for the same reason.
So that being said, I'm an old school guy. I'm kind of set in my ways. I've been doing public speaking. I've been in front of audiences for 33 years. So it's what I do. This whole new connection with, Zoom and everything. But I will say this. I've watched people throughout my whole career. I've taught people public speaking. Now, the difference being, and many, many people have leaped into Zoom, jumped on, and have gotten pretty good at presenting. If they had to do it live in front of an audience, would they feel different? Do they feel safer on Zoom than they would getting in front of a room of 50 people? My thinking is they would feel much more nervous, much more frightened, much more scared if they were standing in front of an audience. You don't feel like you're being judged as much on Zoom. It comes like this fake thought, like it's a fake world. So you just adapt to it. But yes, more and more people are presenting on Zoom who I think wouldn't take the same opportunity to do it live. People are jumping on networking events, jumping on Zoom events, and that's what they're actually starting to do.
But I've heard just the opposite. I heard one of our connects or comments a while back, and again, thank you for your comment, Judy. It would not be the same. Maybe we need to find new ways to reach them. Conversation before and after class. That one lady said her most nervous experience is not in front of an audience talking from a stage. It's doing a Zoom presentation or creative presentation where there's nobody out there. And for me,
Right.
and I'm going to go the other extreme. I would rather have an audience in front of me. I can get feedback, whether it's a live audience, I prefer
Right.
live, of course, or a virtual audience when I say live. But
Mm-hmm.
when I am doing a private audience, like a pre-podcast or a pre-recording. It's
Yes.
like talking to a radio show at 2 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Is there anybody out there listening?
Hello, is this thing
Right.
on?
And because there's no feedback, I don't connect. I don't have a
Yeah.
sense of where to
Oh,
flow.
oh. You're taking me to a place that was like my worst nightmare when I started doing webinars. You know, I've always been considered, and people say I'm a live guy. All my presentations get recorded live because that's where I'm at my best.
Right.
That's me. That's me. I am the best live. That's when I come to life. I'm good at impromptu. I'm good at ad libbing. I'm good at rocking on my feet. But when I had to do webinars and you're putting out all this it's just going out that way with nothing coming back. It was so challenging. Zoom changed that because at least you can see people's faces and you can see their expressions and you get a thumbs up every now and then or an okay.
Well, not Hardy from this one. So you're begging for one. It's not going to happen. But go ahead.
Yeah, there's nothing I get from you. Nothing. Absolutely not. But that being said, the energy, that's what I'm saying. Now, again, when we're doing this right now, you're asking me, Tommy Hilcken, my thoughts, my opinions, my feelings. I enjoy, maybe that's the key to it, is that I enjoy being on stage. I enjoy that. So my paradigms are going to fight everything. For me, if 6 months from now I can be in front of an audience, if I could be teaching in a classroom, that's what I enjoy. So I fight it tooth and nail. I'm doing Zoom and I'm doing this because I have to. Now, the only good thing I will notice that is that you can teach on Zoom. It's very good. Entertainment, like me doing a show or magic or comedy, you're not seeing people or hearing people laugh, boom, stops everything. So I get it. I really do. It's a great tool, and if it's used well, it will be well accepted. And I think corporate and business is going to see a big boom in people doing trainings more online than they ever will live again. I can't see people flying. Let's say somebody in San Diego wants to fly you out to do a presentation. They no longer have to do that. This is very, very acceptable, and for a good reason. It works. You can teach on this.
It'd be very pleasant. If you were having a good time on this, Tommy, and I thank you for your comments, and thank you very much, Judy, for your comments also. I appreciate that. Again, for those who are signing in on the replay side, feel free to leave your comments. I still think it's a form of public speaking. If nothing else, getting your word out there. So many more. I want to say 10,000 more people now know of Judith Morano's existence in the world, but at least 2 or 3 more know about it before.
Thank you, Judith.
So thanks for your
and
comments.
by the way, you just took a shot after the bell.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I get that. Hey, whatever I can do with you, you're slick. Thanks again. We're going to sign off and look forward to seeing people next Monday.
Good to be with you, Joe.